Sacramento Kings Insider, Senior Kings Insider. Frankie Cartoscelli.
We bring the boom. That's what we do.
Future father to be.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, fellas.
Lil Rizzler.
No, that's you. That's you, Dave. That's you.
That's right. Huh? That was
That's right.
Was I the little one?
Yes.
Oh, I was. All right. I'll wear that. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm good, guys. Good. It's a little rainy this morning. Kind of looking at people are reacting to the recent update from Chris Haynes about Malik Monk and his ankle. I think obviously after last night, not really an update you want that he's going to be out of action tonight. But other than that, things are looking pretty good for the Kings.
Yeah, last night. I mean, we're really, if we do the weekend pairing, Frankie, as I don't know if it was frustrating, but a night where literally you could point to what's been a season-long issue of inability to make threes was a large part of why they lost on Friday. And then yesterday it was better, but not incredibly better, but a great bounce-back win. I know it's kind of an overarching question, but just kind of your assessment of the Friday loss and the thrilling win yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Friday seemed like an outlier as far as a lot of the bad three-point shooting performances we've seen from the Kings this year. That was that and then some. I mean, that was just a completely ugly basketball game, and that's not what this team is capable of on a nightly basis. But I do think the fact that they're 29th in made three-pointers this year, and they're still 6-4, they've executed well in late-game situations. I think it bodes well for the overall outlook of this team. And obviously with Malik Monk being sidelined for a game, or it could be a multiple-game absence, we're going to see how this already thin bench is going to perform. But the fact that the shots are not falling, I think, to me, means that there's still another kind of gear this team can reach, because there's too many good shooters on this team to be near the bottom half of the league, but for sure at the very, very bottom in the 29th, 30th range. But it's good to see Kevin Huerter knock down shots. That's a good sign for the Kings after he missed a couple of games with an illness. I mean, he looked good the last couple of nights, especially last night from three. You see guys like DeRozan-Fox who are dealing with the hand issue, but last night in the overtime looked like he wasn't bothered by it. But you're still kind of waiting for those shots to fall from the perimeter, and I think that they will for sure in a matter of time here.
Kings may be dead last in three-point percentage or near there, whatever it may be, but they have to be number one in field goal percentage when you don't count threes. Last night they shot 60% from the field, and for them to be able to have a really good field goal percentage, including those terrible shots or their luck from three. As a matter of fact, DeRozan-Fox, for example, as you mentioned, in the month of November, we're just 6 games in, he is shooting a not stellar 26.2% from beyond the arc. That's not great. That might be his hand, but that doesn't explain everybody else, Frankie. So as Kings fans, do we look at it as kind of what you said? Hey, they're 6-4 and they're shooting a ridiculously low amount from beyond the arc. Things are going to look up, but they shot like crap in preseason too. Like, this is an ongoing thing now. So what are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, you can go ahead and point to the small sample size. It's been 10 games, and I think whether it's 10, 15, or 20 games, I think that everyone has their own way they can approach an NBA season. What sample size is it where you can kind of find out the true identity of who a team is? In my opinion, it's 20 games. If we're looking at the Kings shooting 30% at the 20-game mark and they're 27th in the league, yeah, there might be a little bit of a larger problem. But also, there are some players that Mike Brown, he's at a very thin rotation, and he hasn't really deep further into that bench yet. We saw Doug McDermott getting some minutes last night, I think a little bit against the Clippers too. He's going to have to probably play a little more tonight in San Antonio as well, and going forward if Malik Monk is sidelined for a little bit. Trey Lyles, somebody who was a great three-point shooter for the Kings last year, he's looked completely out of sorts to begin the season, and I think that he's shaking off the rust of being out of action for 3 weeks to a month with that groin issue in training camp. But like you said, Dave, that they're knocking down the twos, and like you aren't very far off. They're 59% from the field from two-pointers. That's second in the NBA. So the fact that they're not making the threes, but they're executing well in the paint. You obviously have king of the mid-range in DeMar DeRozan, who makes it look easy and automatic. DeRozan-Fox, someone who really can get to the line and get into the paint. So the fact that they're not dropping those three-pointers, but they're excelling in the two-point range. They're excelling getting to the paint. They're still, I think, number one in the NBA in free throw shooting percentage at 84%. Those are things that are different from last year. It kind of levels out. But to me, and I think to everybody, to be truly successful this year, I think the Kings need to be a problem from the perimeter like they have the past 2 years. And like I said, small sample size, in my opinion. I think once we hit that 20-game mark, maybe we'll see them kind of get towards that 35% mark where they usually are, and that'll probably be in the middle of the league. But that's probably where they need to be is as far as contending in the West. If they're in the middle of the pack in three-point shooting and continue to hammer the paint in mid-range, they could be where they want to be at the end of the year.
Frankie, I want to go to overtime of last night. So the Kings had the lead, gave up the one free throw. They go to overtime. And here's where the beauty of having Fox and DeRozan came in. DeRozan scored the first 8. Fox scored the next 8. The Kings are, read and react, kind of sharing the ball offense. There were no assists. Those two guys kind of played ISO, but they couldn't be stopped. They both got to their spots. I mean, with most NBA games coming down to the end, I think this makes them so dangerous to have two weapons like that.
Yeah, it's something I think we all kind of envisioned when the DeRozan deal happened in the summer, and we're seeing it full force. We also saw it in Toronto with DeRozan taking over late. That's a game they lost in overtime, but saw it again in Miami. And I think it does take a lot of pressure off of Fox, which at a time like this where he's not 100% healthy is crucial and huge. And especially at a time right now where the Kings are going to be navigating this, whether it's a short or maybe a little longer Malik Monkless period, having DeMar DeRozan takes a lot of pressure off De'Aaron Fox to be that kind of primary initiator and guy that's going to have to go in there. And it can't be Fox or nothing. And that was what the Kings have kind of had to deal with the past couple of years. And having a player like DeMar DeRozan, one of the best fourth quarter scorers and one of the best closers that this era has seen, we're seeing it, from a front row perspective, and we're not seeing it from across the bench now like we did the past couple of years. I think it was Chicago last year. I think he outscored the Kings by himself in the fourth at Golden One Center. We're seeing him play at a high level, and I've said it on, I think, with Styles and Watkins. I think that DeMar DeRozan right now is proving that the old trope of being 35 and over, you kind of start to decline. He looks like he's playing his best basketball quite some time. So having De'Aaron Fox, who looked like he kind of could switch it into that gear last night, even though he struggled from the field to begin with. DeMar DeRozan seems like he's only had that gear late in games this year. He's third right now in points, fourth quarter points in the NBA. That to me makes the Kings a very dangerous team, 3-point shooting or not. If you have De'Aaron Fox and DeMar DeRozan on the floor late in a close game, I think the opposing team, you're going to be feeling a little nervous there.
DeMar DeRozan is shooting a second career best as far as from three, making just under 1.9 a game on 37.5% shooting, which is a career high. It's funny we say with all the 3-point issues, DeMar DeRozan is beating his career best by, I think, about 2%. He is averaging just over 25 points a game. His career high is 27.9. Here's my issue, and again, I'll be that guy. Is this sustainable, Frankie? And what I really mean by that, we'll just take DeRozan, who, as you did mention, he is 35 years old, and he I believe led the league in minutes last year. I think he had 37.8 minutes per game last year. He's playing 38.3 so far this year. I know you don't have a crystal ball. Hell, maybe he can play 44 minutes for 82 games and be absolutely fine. But it seems like they're rolling the dice on not having a lot of depth by relying on these two. And if one goes poof for any reason, the Kings are in a lot of trouble.
No, I agree. I think the long-term aspect of the season, I do think it's going to be a problem. You have 4 players right now in the top 10 of NBA minutes per game from the Kings. No other team has more than one player in that top 10. The fact that the starting 5 is just kind of really taking on the force of these early season minutes, I think it'll catch up to them at some point if they don't make some moves. And Mike Brown knows that. He's addressed it. He's I think, a little picky and selective sometimes with his rotations, and he's self-admitted in that he needs to be better at reaching into the bench and finding some guys who can kind of give him some time here and there. But when you look at Trey Lyles and the bad start to the year that he's had, and Malik Monk was even shaky in the couple of games he had leading into his ankle injury. He wasn't the Malik Monk we saw last year. And again, I look at that as early season stuff and kind of finding new spots and new rhythms with the new roster. But we're going to have to see Mike dig a little deeper here, or Monty McNair kind of look to make some in-season adjustments. And that's something that I think is going to happen. Maybe not a big splashy move, but they're going to have to address the roster at some point and lengthen out this bench, because your starting 5 is great. Their starting 5, I think, is 1, 2, or 3 in the NBA as far as net rating goes. They are a great starting 5. But a lot of teams we see compete or even go on to go deep into the playoffs or win a championship, you need to have a rounded out roster. You need to have a deep rotation. And right now, a 6-7 man rotation is probably not going to be enough for the Kings. They need to have a little more confidence in that group. And I think right now we're going to see a lot more of the guys that they have had and haven't played very much. I think that Jordan McLaughlin's going to get some minutes probably tonight. Doug McDermott, like I mentioned, he's someone that probably will be tapped to play a little bit more, especially with the 3-point shooting being where it is. Mike's mentioned before that he probably should have gone to Doug a couple of times where the Kings were having those really brutal 3-point shooting performances. But to me, it's something that's going to have to be addressed before February, before the deadline. They're going to have to add to this bench and lengthen out the rotation because you can't play 4 players nearly 40 minutes per game for 82 plus games. It just can't happen.
Frankie, there's been so much attention on either the improved free throw shooting or, like we've talked about, the poor 3-point shooting. But there's some metrics right now showing how much improved they have been defensively. Let's talk about that side. What do you think of them as a defensive team right now?
Yeah, last night even I was kind of noticing the in-game adjustments, and I think it's a lot of help. They're trying to play a lot of help defense, and sometimes they're getting a little slow in the rotations. But you really saw them kind of have a polished effort late in the fourth and in overtime. The Suns' 3-point shots were being contested well. Domantas Sabonis had a great recovery, I think, on Devin Booker's shot in the corner at the end of regulation. These are things I think that you have to kind of tip the cap to Mike Brown and his coaching staff. They're adjusting without Jordi Fernandez, who's now in Brooklyn. He was their defensive coordinator the past couple of seasons. I think that there's been some early season growing pains first couple of games, but since then, they're 10th in defensive rating right now. I think that's something that the Kings really, a lot of people coming into the year didn't expect them to be a successful team on the defensive end, but you do have De'Aaron Fox led the league in steals. You have Keon Ellis, who's now playing. He's back in the rotation. He's going to be playing more minutes now, especially if they're out without Malik Monk for a while. Domantas Sabonis, I think, has received a lot of flack over the past couple of years for being a poor defender, but is he a great rim protector? No, but he's holding his own on that defensive end. And we've seen for the past couple of years now, there's no better player in the NBA that's a better defensive rebounder. He is the best defensive rebounder in the NBA. And that means he's boxing out players. He's getting in position. Are they going to be a perfect top 10 defensive product for the entire year? Who knows? Unlikely. But I do think that they do have the personnel to hold their own on the defensive end. And like I mentioned before, the offense is what it is. They're top 5 in points per game right now. To me, it just is a matter of consistency, being there in your spots, communicating, and they do communicate. That's one thing that Mike Brown has been very vocal about, is he wants his players to communicate, call out screens. If you're going to switch. But I'm seeing a lot better rotations and a lot better, just decision-making on that end, and it's paying off.
And just 1/10 of a point behind the Kings in defensive rating, their opponent tonight, the San Antonio Spurs. Incidentally, Frankie, the Sacramento Kings, as of right now, have the number 2, number 3, number 5, and number 7 players in minutes in the NBA. That is 100% not sustainable. You can read Frankie online. You can, of course, read him at sactownsports.com. Also Twitter as well. We talk to him each and every week. Frankie, thanks for the check-in. Have fun watching the game tonight. We'll talk to you soon.
Wow. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, take care. Yeah. That's the football/soccer sneaking in. All right, quick 1-minute break. When we come back, we'll get the post-game reaction. We got a lot of sound to play.